Getsy says the Bears do not plan to limit Justin Fields' elite running ability, but plan to better utilize it. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to go into Braxton Jones taking over a mentorship role when it comes to rookie Darnell Wright, and Bears goggles on 5 current Bears players that probably won't be on the roster next season. We're going to go over that list as well. We'll get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize. If you want to follow me, you can do so right off the top at CEO Haize on every social media platform. You can also follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform that we're on. But let's get into it. Right, we had recent comments about Luke Getsy and about Justin Fields' running ability. A lot of the conversation coming into the season is, of course, Justin Fields needing to be evaluated better as a passer, right? And maybe him, hopefully not running for his life as much, but he still has those instincts of being an amazing running. And Luke Getsy had this to say: most of that is a natural thing once you're in the moment, but decision making we're working on every single game. Every single day, I should say. Timing and rhythm, we're working on every single day. And lastly, the situation that you're in. Putting that all together, you're just increasing the football IQ so you know better when to take those opportunities and when not to. Because there are plenty of times on film that he shouldn't do it. And even though it worked out for us in the long run, there's a better decision. There's a better way. And so hearing that from then, he also says this: there's times I can coach and say, you should do this. But then his instincts tell him to do something, and we have to trust that too. I by no means will make the guy robotic. I don't believe in doing that with any player, but there's a way to refine it all and improve our decision-making and trusting our timing and rhythm, and we'll take it all from there. And that's kind of one of the things I've been talking about when it comes to Justin Fields is the muscle memory. That's how I've been, using it as muscle memory, is that he needs to be able to trust that he has time. Of course, with what he's gone through his first couple of seasons here in Chicago, his natural instinct to run and his natural ability to be an amazing runner on top of that, of course, that comes through, right? That's what he goes to when he has not had the defensive line or the weapons to get open in the combination of those two things. And we just haven't passed the ball a whole hell of a lot, especially last season, his first full season as a starter. So, I like hearing Luke Getsy talk about those things. I love also hearing that, Luke Getsy says that, yeah, sometimes it worked for us, but probably there was a better decision. Increasing Justin Fields' football IQ is key, right? And not to say that he's a smart dumb player, he's not. But again, kind of just the nature of what this roster has been, the nature of what we've gone through as a team, it's put him in this position to where he has to trust their natural ability and maybe not rely on going through his progressions, having the time to allow his players to get open downfield, things like that. So, I love hearing this from Luke Getsy. I love hearing that, especially not making the guy robotic, which is something that Bobby pointed out on yesterday's live stream, which go out and check out Sunday's live stream if you haven't. But it's you don't want to make a player like Justin Fields robotic. You want those instincts. You want to still trust them, but you want to put him in a situation where when he does use his instincts, it's fewer and far between, right? Grow those instincts as a passer. His ability, what he's shown, and his ability to break down defenses on the run is going to be huge and it's going to be amazing. Now imagine adding that into a competent passing offense and a quarterback who has a higher passing IQ as far as just understanding how to read defenses, has more time to allow his guys to get open, makes quicker decisions with the ball as well. Because, I always like to be fair, and that was sometimes where Justin Fields did hold on to the ball too long a couple of times too, right? More than a couple. But, so building Justin Fields up as a player and that football IQ, that running an offense IQ, as that starts to develop in him as well, you already know the natural ability he has running, right? We already know that. We've seen it. He made the Bears dynamic almost alone with that running ability at times where we needed it the most. But if you add in a smart passer on top of that, a smart decision-making on top of that, you have yourself that MVP candidate that so many Bears fans have been asking, can Justin Fields become one day? And I think that's what this season hopefully is. It's setting the groundwork. He's still going to have room to grow after this as well, right? You look at really a player, their first 4 to 5 seasons is you want to see refinement of things, but also growth in areas and becoming smarter as well, right? But when you look at Justin Fields and his development path, if he this season you can evaluate him better as a passer. You have a better scenario and a better situation in which he finds that comfort in being a passer as well. That muscle memory to just take off and run becomes less and less, and he can be more strategic in when he uses his legs to break down a defense. If you get that player paired in with somebody who is a smarter passer, that's what's going to make the Bears a dynamic offense potentially, right? When you look at the running game, the weapons, all that. So this is a season that we want to be able to evaluate Justin Fields as a game manager, right? And I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but I just means how he dictates the pace of the offense, right? How he dictates putting the defense on their heels. They're always going to have to play him for the chance of him taking off and running. You add in an ability to pass at a high level on top of that, woo! That's where things start getting dangerous for the Chicago Bears, and I start getting excited about the future of this team and the growth that we can have offensively. Now, next up, Braxton Jones has apparently been mentoring Darnell Wright, taking on more of a leadership position. And when you look at what Braxton Jones last year had to learn himself as a rookie tackle to help Darnell Wright, along that path, you want players who've been through the same thing. And I know some people may say, well, why is your second-year player taking on a mentorship role? He's not the only mentor, but you still want a player like that to be able to do it. And he said this, there's a little bit of a different role I've taken on. Obviously, Darnell Wright was taken in the first round, trying to help him out a little bit in this offseason during OTAs. I still got a crap ton of work to do myself. And he also discussed the importance of the game slowing down for Darnell Wright as a rookie, right? And the strength and what to expect from the strength of edge rushers in the NFL. Listen, Darnell Wright's development is a key point over the course of the season for the Bears to watch. I don't think he's not going to start off great, right? I don't know if he starts off as rocky as what Braxton Jones did, right? Because Braxton Jones had some times where he got blown up, right? But that's what you expect. The tackle position in the NFL is one of the hardest positions for a rookie to learn. And so the technique and hand technique and everything that's involved in there and adapting to the constant speed and strength you're going to be facing at the NFL level, it's going to take some time. And there are going to absolutely, as I said yesterday, be some games where Bears fans are going to be like, that's the guy we drafted first round. That's the guy you guys wanted to bet on. There's absolutely going to be naysayers to do that. But as the game starts to slow down to Darnell Wright, right? And you expect that to happen around midseason, things like that. And what we have going forward and having a fairly young offensive line on top of that, when you look at there's all the players that we have on that offensive line. Listen, it's a lot to look forward to. I think like Jenkins, Jones, right? When you look at those players, when you look at Darnell Wright, even some of the younger players like a Kramer and things that we have on this roster that could develop into maybe rotational roles at first. I don't know if we see those as starters, but those are all positions, and we have a fairly young offensive line, and Darnell Wright is going to be a linchpin in that. And so as he comes along over the course of the season, yes, there are going to be naysayers. There are going to be people who say, take the patient path. But if Braxton Jones taking on more of a mentor and leadership role to help Darnell Wright and taking him under his wing a little bit helps that trajectory at all and shortens that length, that's going to benefit the Bears. And so hopefully that's what we're seeing. Now, lastly, before we go, this was not a list that I made. Let me be clear here. Haize did not write this list. This actually comes from Rob Schwartz Jr., who wrote 5 current Bears starters who are unlikely to be in a Bears uniform in 2024. I want to go over this list. I want to see how you guys feel about it. First up, he had Darnell Mooney, and he talked about the fact that Darnell Mooney is in the last year of his rookie contract, and the fact that him and Chase Claypool are both potentially up for contract extensions, which is something that we've all talked about. Bringing Tyler Scott in, and what pressure that may bring in Tyler Scott's ability to play in the slot, all those type of things. But I look at this and I say, listen, Darnell Mooney, and we've seen the way that Ryan Poles handles contract negotiations. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination ready to say that Darnell Mooney is a lock to return or a lock to not come back. I think it comes down to production. If he produces in a way that brings that value. What is the thing I always bring up with Ryan Poles is the value of the contract. I think Darnell Mooney will be back if he performs in the level that we know that he can, especially when he's not needed to be the number one. And I think Darnell Mooney is primed for a big season. I do think there is absolutely a chance that he may not come back and he may not be retained, but I'm not saying that that's the most likely scenario. Next up, he brought up Jalen Johnson. And so we all have talked about ad nauseum at this point about Jalen Johnson and the fact that, he missed 11 games over the last 3 years, right? And so when you look at him, there's enough for Jalen Johnson that you can have either conversation. I know a lot of Bears fans look at the lack of interception. He only has 1 interception in his career, right? And they try to bring his value just to that, but there is so much. He's never allowed over 60% completion percentage when he's targeted. He's never allowed that. So to come to that and try to just use just the number of interceptions has always been a weird thing for me and Jalen Johnson, but I will say he needs to grow in man-to-man coverage. He's pretty solid in zone. I want to see him grow in that man-to-man, but I'm not necessarily, I can understand it, and I do think out of anybody on this list, I do think that Jalen Johnson may have the highest probability to not come back. But again, this is the list. Next up, Cody Whitehair. I understand with Cody Whitehair. I'm not even going to get into explaining it. Cody Whitehair, I hope he has a solid season as being the starting center. Pro Bowler last time he was starting center. I understand all that. I hope he has a great season. But I will not be mad at all if Cody Whitehair's last season in the Chicago Bears uniform is this season, and hopefully we attack the center position at a high level in next year's draft, or hopefully next year in free agency, where if we do bring back Cody Whitehair, we're talking about as a depth piece rather than as your starting center. Next up, Trevis Gipson, and we've talked about this as well. Trevis Gipson, who, I think he was double teamed at the 5th highest rate last season of all edges, but I do think that Trevis Gipson needs to show the defensive line has improved. And as we look to continue to improve that defensive line, and he's up for a contract extension, he's definitely has a potential to not return. But I do think that Trevis Gipson is going to perform this season. At least I hope he does, with the improvements on that defensive line overall. And I think he's going to show Bears fans and the coaching staff something. It just depends on, again, that value. And I don't get the inkling from Trevis Gipson that he's a player that's going to necessarily be looking to like break the bank or get any type of record-setting money. He hasn't performed up to that, but I think he's a guy that if I get the right feel for him, that he's a guy who he's going to, if you give him a respectable offer, he's going to stay in a Bears uniform. But it comes down to that value, and that value is going to be proven by what he gives on the field for the Chicago Bears this upcoming season. And then lastly, Eddie Jackson. Now, this is a guy that we have not talked a lot about here, either me, C-Dub, or Bobby, about the chances of him coming back. When you look at it, he's 30, going to be turning 31 in 2024. When you look at the cap hit for him as well, his cap hit next year is $18.1 million. And so if you move on from him, he only carries a dead cap of $5.5 million. So just looking at the numbers of it, I understand why he's on this list. But to me, Eddie Jackson was on pace last season for a great year before injury got to him. And I think if Eddie Jackson can stay healthy, I have no doubts that he's going to perform well enough where it's indicative of him getting a new contract with the Bears and staying in a Bears uniform. But it really comes down, again, value. I look at Eddie Jackson at that age, turning 31, not the level where you expect him to develop much more, but still at a level where you still expect him to be able to perform at a consistent level for a little bit, right? And it comes down to, do they get somebody they feel is an immediate Eddie Jackson replacement in the draft in the upcoming years? Or do they draft somebody who could eventually take over that spot? Or is there a free agent target that they could look at to come in and bring it in that spot? But overall, Eddie Jackson, I think the biggest thing for him is going to be health. And I think as long as he stays healthy, he's on path to stay in a Bears uniform. Considering all the other youth that we have as well in that secondary unit, you want Eddie Jackson and a veteran presence down there to be there to help kind of lead and guide that team. So, this list overall from the writer, what was his name again? Rob Schwartz. I don't hate, right? I understand a lot of the people that he picked for this, list, but I think that it really comes down to the players, right? How do they perform? And does that performance and then the contract negotiations get the value that Ryan Poles could be looking for? Let me know what you guys think on that one down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think there are any other players that should be added to this list as well as players that we look at that may be unlikely to return in the Chicago Bears uniform in 2024? Let me know all that down below. Otherwise, you can follow the show at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, Chicago Bears related, because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.